guys, and welcome to my channel. I'm Katie from Little House Learning Co. and here I'll be talking everything from homeschooling to homemaking to motherhood and everything in between. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about my 2025 reading challenge, how it's going, the books that I have loved so far, and also just talk a little bit about how I make time for reading as a busy mom. So every year I like to make a new challenge for myself when I think about my reading goals. Last year in 2024, I tried to read down my bookshelf, so read as many titles as I could from the books that I already owned. And the year before that, I just picked a couple of different authors and tried to read their entire collection, which is really fun. This year in 2025, I wanted to read some more books that had been on like the highly recommended book lists. So at the end of every year, they come out with like the best books from, whatever year it was. So I took some recommendations from you all. I took some recommendations from friends in person. And then I also looked at a lot of those lists that Bookstagrammers or Goodreads or whoever were coming out with that said, here are the top books from 2024. And I put them all on my to be read list. And then I just tried to see how many of those I could read. And I like to go into books blind, not knowing anything about it, not even reading the back, because sometimes that can give away like key plot details. And I have been very surprised. There's been some more books that I have also loved and can see why they are highly recommended. A lot of romance. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's my age or my gender, but a lot of just kind of like paperbacky romance type books, which have not been my favorite, but it is fun to read something that's different. And a lot of other books, some classics. So I want to share with you so far, out of the 104 books that I've read here at the midway point of the year, what have been some of my top 5-star reads. So my first one has been The House at Pooh Corner. Now this is a reread. This isn't even one that was like on those recommended lists, but this is one that I read with my kindergartner as part of a Quiet Growing Kindergarten book list, which is my kindergarten curriculum. And I don't know if it was just because this is my last kindergartner, but it was so sweet to read through. I think one of the things that stood out to me most about The House at Pooh Corner is how different my experience was reading it now than it was when I tried reading it to my first child. What would have that been? 6 years ago, I think, when he was in kindergarten. The dialogue in this book is tricky. There's a lot of overlapping dialogue. There's a lot of interruptions. There's a lot of what seem like run-on sentences. And now I see the value in how funny that is. It just brings so much humor. It's exactly how kids talk when they're excited or when they're even in a group all together. And the silliness of it and also the heartfeltness of it really got to me this time. It was just so wonderful to read. So if you are somebody who has heard a lot about Winnie the Pooh, tried to read it, and are having difficulty like I did my first time, I would definitely recommend listening to it on audiobook. That was a huge help to me, kind of understanding some more of the pacing and just different things, especially with the dialogue in his literary writing style. But I would highly, highly recommend this one, and also just Winnie the Pooh when we were very young. Like all of them are treasured reads for us. Okay, so then my second book was this one, Much May Be Done with Sparrows by Karen Glass. Now, I've read a lot of Karen Glass books before. She's one of the 6 original creators of Ampleside Online, which is a Charlotte Mason homeschool curriculum that we use. She's written a lot of very heady informational books about Charlotte Mason, about her principles, about narration and things like that. This book has a very different feel. So if you are somebody who is intimidated sometimes or just sits down to read like an academic homeschool book and it seems like too much for the season of life that you're in, please pick up Much May Be Done with Sparrows. This is a chap book. She calls it because it is short. And man, the chapters, so like this is chapter 4. It's just a few pages. It's something, it's small, it's easy to read, but the wisdom in it, the gems of this book have just been profoundly impactful to me in the way that I educate. Even the first chapter alone, I gave a little talk on when I did our co-op retreat because it was so impactful to me, this concept of Much May Be Done with Sparrows. So I won't say more about it because I don't want to spoil it, but please go check this book out. It just came out in 2024, so it's kind of a new read. I think it's pretty inexpensive on Amazon. Is very encouraging. It would be great for the summertime as a homeschool mom. Okay, the third book is Treasures of the Snow by Patricia St. John. A bunch of homeschool moms had recommended this book to me, as well as a couple of her other books. So I just bought, I think, 3 or 4 of them when I saw them on Amazon, not knowing at all what they were about. And I thought, I'm gonna pick this up. This is so highly recommended. She is an author that comes up a lot. She's a little bit more obscure. I feel like I've never seen her really shared a ton about, like on Instagram or on blogs, but in real life homeschool community, a lot of them have recommended her books. And let's see, what I will say about this one, I was really caught off guard by how sweet it was. Maybe it was also just the palate cleanser that I needed, because I had been reading, like I said, a lot of those romance books, and that was just quite a bit for me. This one was written in 1948, so it does have some of that feel of an older book. This is published by Moody Publishers, which I think also publishes Sugar Creek Gang, which is from that same era. And it had a feel like that to me, where it's very it's a little bit preachy. There's like a very strong religious component. Definitely some, not like moralism, but some moral truths and like a good moral of the story that you can glean from it. But that aside, I felt like it was so accessible for children and even for me as an adult. I really enjoyed, there was a lot of themes about bitterness and reconciliation and redemption, and it just caught me in the feels, and it was just a fun little story to read. I would definitely recommend, like, I'm gonna have my 10-year-old son read this. I think that this is a book he will really connect with. But I think that we could even read this as a family. It would be a really fun read around Christmas time, because there are some Christmas themes in here. But definitely recommend Patricia St. John. I'm reading one of her second books that I also have purchased, so I will let you know if all of her books are as good. So far, I'm really enjoying that too. And I can find them pretty easily on my Libby app through my library, so even if you don't want to purchase them, maybe you could listen to them as a quick audiobook, while you're in the car or something like that with your family as well. All right, the fourth book that I read and has been a 5-star read for me, I'll put right here. It is called Feeding the Mouth That Bites You by Kenneth Wilgus. And this book was recommended to me when my co-op did a panel on raising teens. One of the moms had said this book was really helpful for me when I was talking with my husband about our approach and how we raise teens. We do not have teen yet. My oldest is 10. He'll be, 10 and a half. I think he's about 10 and a half. But I would say that it was such a good read as we prepare to enter into those preteen and teenage years. The concept of the book centers around something called planned emancipation, where it talks about how you can move from, age 10 or 11 to age 18, which really, in the long scheme of things, is a short window of time, from where they are able to, they are fully needing your help, your correction, your guidance, your teaching, to this emancipation, essentially, of needing parenting in that way. Obviously you're still always going to be a parent, but I thought it was just such a great concept of how to help your child have freedoms where they can, to be able to set up good boundaries. So instead of controlling every single little aspect of their life, you're able to say, okay, here's the boundary that was very set, and we're on the same page about this, but everything in this realm you can have freedom with, and how to move through different freedoms as they work towards, turning 18 and leaving your home, most likely. Just an excellent read. It's one that I have coming right now, in the mail, because I made my husband listen to it. I listened to it, and it's one that I think I just want to have a physical copy so I can access it again and reread it as we move through these teen years here in the next decade. All 3 of my kids will, be moving through teenage years and out of the house, which is hard to believe. The 5th book is a series. It's called the Part of Your World series. It's by a woman named Abby Jimenez, I think is how you say her last name. The first book is Part of Your World, and I didn't really love the first book. The second book is called Just for the Summer. No, the second book is Yours Truly. I'll put them all here. And the third book is Just for the Summer. And these books were definitely more, there's a couple of open door romantic scenes, which I usually do not read any books that have that kind of thing. Again, I went into them blind, so I was a little bit caught off guard, but it's something I just skipped through. I don't mind if it's just one scene or two scenes that I can just page through. I really start to mind. There was another book that I read and it was like at least 15% of the book I had to fast forward through. That gets annoying to me. But these, I think part of why I like them so much is because they take place in Minnesota, a couple of them. They have a lot of Minnesota references. I live in Minnesota, so it was really fun to have them reference places I've been or that I live close to. But also, especially in yours truly, the banter and the dialogue was so relatable. The way that I think or talk, there was times where I would be reading the book and I would think, oh, this is how I would respond in my head. I would turn the page and it was exactly how the character responded. I think both yours truly and Just for the Summer I finished in like less than 24 hours. I'm pretty sure yours truly, I was like, oh, I should start a new book tonight as I settle down for bed. And then started at maybe at 8 p.m. And I stayed up till like 2 or 3 in the morning reading the book. It was just the kind of book that you are smiling through. It's funny, it's relatable. It was very much, a rom-com, pretty predictable in that sense. But like I said, the dialogue really did it for me. The Minnesota locations did it for me. And also in all 3 of the books, the author does deal with some more themes that are a little bit more complex than your simple romance trope. And that's why sometimes books that are more the closed door romance get hard to read a lot of for me, because they are very predictable, very Hallmarky, where this one, despite the couple scenes that I fast forwarded, had a lot of relatable dialogue, funny themes, and was less predictable, dealt with like a lot more real life circumstances. So I just think that they're funny, but be prepared that there are a couple things that if open door romance themes are not for you, you might not like these books, or you could just skip through them like I do. So those are 5 of my top 5 reads of 2025 so far, out of, like I said, the 104 books that I have finished through the first half of the year. Now, I usually read more in the first half of the year, especially because our second term and third term usually end in February and May, which are in the first half of the year. And there's a lot of books that I read aloud to my children or that I'm listening to on audiobook with my children, and those I count. I also count audiobooks. I don't count any picture books or things that I can read, in like one sitting with my children. But if it's something that we're working on for school where, we've had to read it for 12 weeks and I've had to read that aloud, I am definitely counting that on my read list. So that's one of the ways that I read quite a bit. When I look at 104, I think, okay, a lot of these I've listened to on audiobook or I've read myself, but also a fair amount I have read with my children for school. I don't anticipate reading as many books in the second half of the year, like I said, just because we'll only have one term for 2025 that will end in the second half of the year. With that said, I also do make reading a priority. So I always have a book on my nightstand. I like to be in bed kind of early, like around 8:30 while my kids are kind of winding down or they're going to sleep, and read for an hour-ish, whether that's audiobook or a physical book. I try to keep a book in my purse when we're going out. There's a lot of times where we will be at swimming lessons or at the park or, whatever, where we have to wait, and I'll sit and just read for 15 minutes. It's one of those things where before I became a mom, I used to sit and I would read like the whole thing, or I'd read, 6-7 chapters. And when I transitioned into motherhood, especially with homeschooling, it felt like I don't have time to sit and read in that same way that maybe I used to. And I will say the way that I get the most reading done is just 10 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 15 minutes there. And it really adds up. If you just think, 10 pages a day, well, it would take you, half a month to finish a book. And that's really not that many days. So sometimes, especially if it's a harder book for me to get through, I try to set goals of like, maybe I could just read 5 or 10 pages, 5 in the morning, 5 at night. And that really doesn't take hardly any time, and it helps me move through a lot of books. Now, with that said, I also love audiobooks. So sometimes I will read a paperback or, hardcover book for like an hour in bed. We'll turn the lights off, and then I'll put my my headphones in, and I will listen to a book on audio for like another 30 minutes until I get sleepy. And that also helps me consume a lot of great literature, especially children's literature that's not, Or, like those romance type books. Those are really easy to just have on in the background or have as you're falling asleep, something to listen to. And they're not something that you need like a ton of focused attention for. I will listen to audiobooks when I'm folding laundry, sometimes when I'm making supper, sometimes when I'm doing other chores like sweeping, definitely when I'm getting ready in the morning too, or even in the shower. I have one of those Bluetooth speakers that can clip on in your shower that you can listen to a lot of audiobooks that way. But really, it's just a little chunks here and here and here, and then it really adds up to a lot of readings. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like and subscribe so I know what kind of content you're interested in, especially as I'm growing my channel. Otherwise, I hope that this has been helpful for you just as you're rethinking maybe how you can approach reading in motherhood, and also maybe have found some books to put on your TBR, and I will see you in the next one.